Sloan.
Either that, or he gets mad that Derek Sloan got booted for his check, and he writes one to Aaron O'Toole.
Well, that's it. Well, if I'm Paul Frum, I'm writing a check. I'm finding a way to make a donation to, I'm trying to find a way to make a donation to Aaron O'Toole that somehow or other is going to slip through the cracks. Because remember, that's all this was. This was a donation from a has-been washed out alleged neo-Nazi from 20 and 25 years ago.
A bitter old man from 30 years ago.
Nobody knows. I'm not surprised that nobody noticed it. Okay. Of course, now people are going to be on the lookout for it.
Yeah, well, he'll just pick somebody else.
There are other people out there who are.
Yeah. He'll pick a friend of his.
If I want to, I'm not going to do this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to do this to any of my friends in the Conservative Party. Okay, but if I wanted to get rid of Aaron O'Toole, okay,
we now have the blueprint.
And I was a neo-Nazi, but my name's not well known or whatever. I'd write him a check, they'd accept it. And then I'd leak to one of these left-wing publications all of the terrible stuff I've written on Facebook. Because nobody's going to check my Facebook account when they do when they accept my contribution.
So what Aaron O'Toole...
Of course, now you've got a dilemma. How can you get rid of Derek Sloan in those circumstances and not anybody else?
And keep Aaron O'Toole. If the same thing happens to him. So what Aaron O'Toole has just done is handed a blueprint to those with extreme views who want to get rid of particular politicians.
Now, will that happen? Probably not.
Oh, I hope not.
But it's beside the point. The point I'm making is...
Well, why would you make that road open anyway?
Here's a news flash, okay? Nick, I know that this is going to surprise you more than anybody else. I'm not a rocket scientist.
What? Joseph, you had me fooled, buddy.
It took me something like 3.2 seconds to figure out this problem, this dilemma.
Joseph, okay? I got a confession. I'm not a rocket scientist either.
Well, okay, so it took you 5.3 seconds.
Oh, my God.
Who's running the show over there? I'm sorry, guys. I know that... Look, I don't want to insult people and upset them and put them down, but you aspire to being the government of the second largest country in the world, the oldest British dominion in the world, one of the oldest democracies in the world. It's not child's play, and sometimes I don't think these guys understand the seriousness of what they're talking about doing. You want to be the government of Canada. And that's a serious business. Okay? It's not a childish game. It's a serious business. Take it seriously.
Obviously.
And I'm sure they're very earnest, but there's a difference, as I always say, between being earnest and being serious. If you're going to play this game internally, you're not serious. You're not ready for prime time. You're not ready to govern the country. And that's not saying that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are ready to run the country. I don't think they're doing such a great job. But are you going to do a good job if this is the way that you're running the party?
Well, you know what? I know this for a fact, that right now, if the only two people in government were you and I, and we could handpick half a dozen people, we could do a much better job than what's being done now or what is proposed to be done under this present Conservative government. Because the first thing going was we would surround ourselves with people smarter than us to give us solid advice so that we could limit our mistakes to as few as possible. And when we do make them, we'd have the courage of our convictions to admit it. When's the last time you ever heard a politician, a leading major politician, stand up and say, that was my bad. I screwed that up, but I'm going to do better next time because I'm going to learn from my mistakes? Doesn't happen. Ever. Did I ever? Harper didn't do it. Trudeau doesn't do it. Well, Trudeau wouldn't do it if you handed him the script and he was... Anyway, it just doesn't happen. And yet that's the kind of thing. That's how you rebuild the trust of the population. Like right now, one of the things I told my son today when we were talking about COVID and all that other stuff, I said, for me, what it comes down to is a total lack of trust. My government has lied to me so many times that I don't trust a word they say. I don't trust the scientific community for the same reason. Now, I'm not disparaging all scientists. I'm not disparaging all politicians. I'm disparaging the institution which they have desecrated that I used to trust. And it takes a long time to win that back. And I haven't seen any sign of anybody even trying yet.
No, when they make a mistake and you point out politely and respectfully that a mistake has been made, rather than owning it and fixing the problem, their default position is to double down on the mistake.
Yeah, well, that's what Ford's doing.
So we talked about this last week, Nick, the lack of real leadership.
Yep. And boy, oh boy, that's why I keep asking, is Churchill still dead? Although he couldn't get elected these days. They spot him with a cigar and a snifter of brandy, and that'd be it for him.
Yeah, well, it's a good question whether or not Winston Churchill could get elected these days. I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat room? Could a guy like Sir Winston Churchill be elected to public office these days? In today's, I don't know, Nick. It's a fair question.
Yeah, I thought so. I guess what is the most disheartening of all is how they filter out people for the smallest faults but overlook the greatest ones. Like if you look at whether it be conservative or liberal, we have people in government who have no business being there. Their social skills are take Climate Barbie as an example. Okay, or what is she now? Some kind of other Barbie. But and I don't mind calling her that because her head's about as empty. She says stuff that is absolutely out of this league. Like any minister, let's say from the 1950s, would walk circles around her. And she wouldn't even be an intern. Never mind the minister of the crown or a minister of the crown. Our standard for ministers has fallen so low that a 6-year-old girl with a skip rope could jump over it. Obviously, that's how Climate Barbie got her job.
You're a very anti-Barbie commentator, Nick.
She's just about as empty-headed as anybody. And it's not because she's a she. I'd say the same thing about anybody in that portfolio talking the way they talk.
So it would be, if it was a guy, it'd be a Climate Ken?
Yeah. Or a bobblehead doll.
Okay, we're getting too crazy here. I want to go for a break, or we have to go for a break. But just before we do, just want to answer Marin's question: who is running the zoo? The monkeys are running the zoo.
I said, damned if I know.
The monkeys are running the zoo, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, if you're listening to the live show, stay tuned. You'll be back in a few minutes. And if you're listening to the podcast, thank you for joining us, and join us again on our next show on Nick and Joe on ThinkRadio.ca.